Forse? Betcha dia? Don't worry, we also have excellent English skills. However, we don't spend all day chatting. We love to work. In 2012, we could have voted for longer holidays, and we voted against them. It's crazy, isn't it? But we're not crazy. Our economy and government are among the world's most stable. That, combined with our outstanding talent pool and a deregulated labor market, makes Switzerland the most innovative and competitive nation in the world. Our Swiss dual education system provides an excellent mix of both vocational education and apprenticeships. Now let's take a look at industry. Maybe Germany, the United States, and China are well known for their industrial output. But did you know that Swiss industrial production per capita beats all of them? Sorry, guys. Our country is small, but hey, 3 Swiss companies are among the global top 20 most valuable companies. Furthermore, we offer the best quality of life. That's why 3 Swiss cities are among the world's best for the highest quality of living. In addition, Switzerland is one of the happiest nations on the globe. Perhaps because we eat on average 12 kilograms of chocolate per year? Switzerland is the best location for innovation, has stable political, economic, and financial conditions, has the highest living standard, and welcomes your business. So tell us now, when will you invest in Switzerland? Switzerland Global Enterprise, enabling new business. Find out more at s-ge.com.
For us in the Aditya Birla Group, Odisha has been one of our most preferred investment destinations. Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik's exceptional leadership has been the singular factor in the rapid progress of Odisha. The state government has leveraged its competitive advantages, including its progressive policies and governance framework, are a big pull factor.
I welcome you to Odisha. Come, join the juggernaut.
In healthcare, a vast ecosystem is helping therapy innovators become more patient-centric and more effective than ever before. Cytiva supports researchers, biopharma, and clinicians in the pursuit of more targeted treatments. In discovery, speed and accuracy are everything. The faster and smarter researchers can work, the more patients benefit. To ensure that new, more targeted therapies become reality, we're equipping biomanufacturers with the tools and expertise they need to produce cost-effectively and quickly. How can tens of thousands of individualized patient doses be manufactured quickly, efficiently, and securely? The answer, with a healthy dose of expertise and innovation. We're creating processes and solutions that are scalable and address complex needs. We work to deliver diagnostic tools and other technologies to bring the right therapy to the right patient at the right time, so that life-saving medicines come within the reach of more people and could save more lives. Cell culture, protein purification, biomarker imaging, and analysis. It may not be what most think about when envisioning the future of healthcare, but this is what we do. Our part in changing the world. Advancing and accelerating. Discovery, manufacturing, diagnostics, future therapeutics.
road to regulatory compliance is long and filled with choices. With a combination of standards, process, and service, USP can help guide your path to compliant, quality products. Trust the standard that sets the benchmark for medicines. Our robust and collaborative scientific process is part of our comprehensive approach. We offer reference standards that are tied to USP monographs to help you minimize risk and enhance your confidence in compliance. Reduce time and resources spent developing in-house standards and streamline your path to regulatory compliance. We work with independent, volunteer scientific experts who rigorously review and approve our standards, which undergo testing by USP and other laboratories around the world. Ongoing testing of our standards helps ensure the quality of your product over time. And only USP reference standards are linked to official USP NF monographs that provide specifications for the identity, purity, and potency to meet FDA requirements without further in-house qualification and the needs of our global customers. With USP, you have access to our in-house scientific experts to guide you every step of the way. In addition to our best-in-class USP reference standards, we offer training, education, and other services. Our online resources help smooth your path to regulatory compliance. Our standards provide precise testing and validation guidelines, as well as reference samples for testing. Drugs can be made consistently every time. We are more than reference standards. We provide a unique combination of standards, process, and service. From buying to applying standards, we support your bottom line with reference standards that have been rated best in class by our customers. Talk with us to find out how we can help you navigate your journey to regulatory compliance. Contact USP at usp.org.
Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India and its public sector undertaking Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, BIRAC, are organizing the second edition of Global Bio India from 1st to 3rd March 2021 on digital platform. The first edition in 2019 at AeroCity, New Delhi was a huge success with participation from over 25 plus countries, 190 exhibitors, 2,500 plus delegates, 300 plus startups, 50 plus incubators, 60 plus research institutes, 800 plus business meetings scheduling and representation from 9 states. India offers a unique destination as innovation hub and biomanufacturing hub for the world. Large talent pool, growing capacities for frugal innovation and manufacturing of affordable, globally competent products and technologies in healthcare, agriculture and allied area, food and nutrition, waste to value, sanitation and clean energy solutions. Biotechnology sector is recognized as the sunrise sector that would have multiplier cascading impact on achieving India's USD 5 trillion economy target by 2024. Government of India initiatives reiterates the significance of biotechnology sector as the sunshine sector. Global Bio India 2021, the largest bio event, would showcase India's biotech sector strength and opportunities at global level. Global Bio India 2021 is expected to draw around 5,000 plus delegates from across the globe. Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC, along with its autonomous institutes, has been at the forefront in the nation's fight against COVID-19. The tableau, India Fights COVID, by Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, showcasing significant contribution of biotechnology sector in the development of vaccine, under Make in India mission, India is now gearing up to become innovation hub and biomanufacturing hub for India and for the world. This happens to be the most exciting time to host Global Bio India 2021, India's largest biotech event. Led by DBT and BIRAC in partnership with CII, ABLE and Invest India. Together, we can transform billions of lives worldwide. Join us on the biotech journey. Global Bio India 2021. Jai Hind.
Welcome to Switzerland. Did you know that our country is not just a great place to visit, but also your first-class business location? We are centrally located in Europe and we have the world's best infrastructure. Oh, and the train is always on time, so let's take a journey. Did you know that Switzerland has 4 official languages? Ja? No? Forse? Decidia? Don't worry, we also have excellent English skills. However, we don't spend all day chatting, we love to work. In 2012, we could have voted for longer holidays, and we voted against them. It's crazy, isn't it? But we're not crazy. Our economy and government are among the world's most stable. That, combined with our outstanding talent pool and a deregulated labor market, makes Switzerland the most innovative and competitive nation in the world. Our Swiss dual education system provides an excellent mix of both vocational education and apprenticeships. Now let's take a look at industry. Maybe Germany, the United States, and China are well known for their industrial output. But did you know that Swiss industrial production per capita beats all of them? Sorry, guys. Our country is small, but hey, 3 Swiss companies are among the global top 20 most valuable companies. Furthermore, we offer the best quality of life. That's why 3 Swiss cities are among the world's best for the highest quality of living. In addition, Switzerland is one of the happiest nations on the globe. Perhaps because we eat on average 12 kilograms of chocolate per year? Switzerland is the best location for innovation, has stable political, economic, and financial conditions, has the highest living standard, and welcomes your business. So tell us now, when will you invest in Switzerland? Switzerland Global Enterprise, enabling new business. Find out more at s-ge.com.
For us in the Aditya Birla Group, Odisha has been one of our most preferred investment destinations. Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik's exceptional leadership has been the singular factor in the rapid progress of Odisha. The state government has leveraged its competitive advantages, including its progressive policies and governance framework, are a big pull factor.
When Dr. Rasul comes, we will give her a spot immediately.
Right, we can do that.
Yeah. So let's start on time then, maybe. And you send me a message, if she comes, then I can.
And Amita, are you controlling the slides or do we share screen?
I can do that for you. Yes, just a second.
Yeah.
Please.
So when we start, I think it's good to, you can see if the video continues okay, then everyone can be online. Otherwise, you need to shut down your video and keep on mute. Hopefully the bandwidth will hold on.
Yeah.
Neetu, can I ask you to play the video? The presentation which I have shared. Hello, Neetu.
Yeah, we are sharing.
Neetu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to work well. It just we'll have to take care of the background noise, I think. So maybe when everyone shuts down their goes on mute, maybe it will help, I think. So Amita, just it's only the panel members, especially members on this particular call, and others have a different channel, the audience.
So can you please repeat that, sir? Sorry.
No, I'm just asking, it's only the audience, it's only the panel members on this screen right now, like who joined through this link, and everyone else is on a separate channel, all the audience. I think you're on mute already.
Amita, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Sorry. So I'd like to, we are on live right now. I'd like to request Dr. Sanjay Saxena to do the introductions. And,
Right. So we are live now? Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Biotech and Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this Agritech conclave. Agriculture plays a pivotal role in India's economy by contributing around 16% of country's GDP. And in the current financial year, India's food grain production is estimated to reach to an all-time high of more than 300 million tons. While much of this increase in production can be attributed to the hard work of our farmers, research undertaken by the agricultural scientists, and farmer-friendly initiatives of the government, Agritech startups too, in their own small way, have contributed in this effort by addressing various challenges across the spectrum of agriculture value chain, right from farm inputs to cultivation, post-harvest storage, processing, to retailing. A recent report of Ernst & Young has projected a market potential of $24 billion for Agritech by 2025. While government is making every possible effort to promote entrepreneurship in agriculture sector through conducive policies, setting up Agritech focus incubators and accelerators and providing required financial, IP and regulatory support for product and technology development, right from idea generation to commercialization, the impact of Agritech at the farmer's level is not as pronounced as one would like to see. One of the major challenges confronted by the startups is the testing and validation of the product and technologies as farmers feel in minimum possible time. DBT has initiated a program under which BioTech-Kisan hubs have been set up in different agro-climatic regions of the country, which is scout for available technologies and solutions to various problems of farmers that are specific to that particular region. These Biotech-Kisan hubs and the partner institutes can effectively serve as a test beds for testing, validating, demonstrating various technologies developed by their startups. Biotech also proposes to conduct a grand challenge in agri-technology translation to identify ready-to-deploy and scalable innovations in agriculture that will help in increasing the income of farming household. A series of innovative technologies, practices, products, services, business models, and integrated solutions have been piloted at a small scale in India, will be identified, funded, and monitored, and field tested under this program. Another problem often experienced by the Agritech startup is that of a scaling up of their innovations. To address the issue of a scale up and to catalyze the commercialization process, DBT proposes to come up with a nationwide network of agri-biotech clusters, which will provide enterprise with required services and manufacturing zones. This conclave is expected to provide an insight on leveraging the existing Kisan hubs and the upcoming agri-biotech clusters to address the needs and propel the growth of agribusiness-based startups. While some of the Indian startups will share their experience of their entrepreneurial journey, Dr. Maurice Moloney from Agritech Knowledge Spain and Professor Nina Mehta from Center for Horticulture Science Australia shall present an international perspective. This would be followed by a panel discussion on Kissan hubs and Agri Biotech clusters involving Agritech startup ecosystem leaders, representatives from academia and other stakeholders. The session is moderated by Dr. Kiran Sharma, CEO, Agribusiness and Innovation Platform, Agri. I welcome you all once again and request Dr. Sharma to take charge of proceedings. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sanjay. I think for giving that brief overview. Unfortunately, Dr. Renu Swarup, Secretary of Department of Biotechnology, is not with us right now. But is she around?
No, but it's.
So if she is able to join us, I think coming out of her important meeting, then we will listen to her as well. But
it's pleasure to have Mrs. Chavi Jha, Joint Secretary from Ministry of Agri Cooperation and Farmers Welfare with us. Good afternoon, madam. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining, madam. Yeah. So a very warm welcome to all the participants and resource persons to this Agritech conclave session, focusing on Kissan hubs and Agri Biotech clusters. I think Sanjay already mentioned about these two initiatives. So we have an exciting lineup of keynote speakers and panelists to discuss the challenges to support the startup entrepreneurs from the proof of concept stage to the market, and the challenges that they face during the process through scale up and manufacturing. Also, what are the lessons learned from elsewhere and how these can be applied to contribute towards developing a self-reliant or for sake of Morris, Atmanirbhar India, which is a flagship initiative of the Government of India. As it was mentioned, the growth of the Indian biotech sector has positioned India amongst the top 12 global destinations for biotechnology and approximately a 3% share of the global biotechnology industry. Given its immense economic potential, the Government of India is keen on transforming the sector to deliver the US $150 billion biotechnology industry by 2025 and target a global share of about 18 to 20%. The agri-biotech sector has a lot to contribute towards this ambitious goal. While we have seen in the past the BT cotton has been the major output from this sector, the potential of agri-biotechnology has, as a growth driver, remains untapped. With the emergence of agri-based entrepreneurships and advancements in biotechnology, this is the right time to explore the opportunities for the sector towards catalyzing greater economic growth, with a focus on sustainable agriculture measures that can benefit smallholder farmers and rural communities. There are challenges towards achieving this goal, given the time it takes to commercialize technologies, gaps in technology transfer and application, and lack of access to facilities that are very critical to startups and small and medium enterprises for going beyond the proof of concept stage to technology refinement, having access to manufacturing hubs, marketing, and very importantly, the regulatory compliance as well. The Department of Biotechnology, Government of India aims to address this through its BioTech-Kissan Hubs program and the upcoming Agri-Biotech Cluster Initiative. As mentioned by Sanjay, the hub is a farmer-centric scheme for farmers developed by and with the farmers and aims to understand the problems of water, soil, seed, and markets faced by many farmers and provide simple solutions to them. Located in different agroclimatic zones in the country with strong linkages with scientific and research institutions, these hubs offer platforms for testing novel ideas and technologies directly with the farmers and validating the use cases and adoption of proven technologies through large-scale field demonstrations at the grassroots level. The existing incubation ecosystem has been vital to startups, and over the last 15 years, I think this ecosystem has very well grown with the various schemes from the Government of India. They especially help in assisting their journey from idea to proof of concept stage. To move into the next pilot and commercialization stages, These startups need access to plug-and-play facilities, services like designing, business development, vendors, and manufacturing facilities for mass production. The proposed nationwide network of clusters comprising of these propellers and manufacturing zones will complement the ecosystem and support more startups, especially in their lab to market journey, and would be key component for building a $100 billion biomanufacturing hub that can deliver approximately 10 million jobs by 2025. That's the aspiration. Together, these initiatives can also lead towards better translation of technologies from lab to land, facilitate job creation in the rural economy, improve livelihood opportunities for millions who are dependent on agricultural and allied sectors, and create a sustainable research and development pathway in the agri-biotechnology domain. In the initial part of the session, we will hear from experts on technology translation models that they have led in their academic or research organizations. Then we switch the gears in part two and hear from some young and exciting startups about their journey so far and their expectations from this hub. And finally, close the panel with a panel discussion that comprises of practitioners representing the AgTech startup ecosystem, especially interested in their thoughts on how these platforms can be leveraged to further the growth of agribusiness-based startups and small and medium enterprise in the country. So thank you for joining us today evening, and let's get started. I would request our first keynote address from Dr. Maurice Maloney. He is a professor. Maloney is a research biologist and a biotechnology businessman. I call him businessman because from biotechnology he made the transition, and I know about the whole transition over the last 30 years. Thanks, Maurice. And he's the founder and managing partner of Agritech Knowledge LLC in Spain, an international consultancy network for agricultural technologies from academia, startups, and major corporations. He's an experienced research scientist turned senior executive leader and has spent about half of his career in academic organizations and the rest in the private sector. In his academic posts, he has always paid attention to the commercial potential of his research. He was the former executive director and CEO of the Global Institute for Food Security at the University of Saskatchewan, a group executive food, health, and life science industries for the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization in Australia, CSIRO, and also has been director and chief executive of Rothamsted Research, where he revitalized the scientific and funding strategy, building new public-private partnership models, etc. He founded a company, I think, long back, maybe late 80s, early 90s, called Symbiosis Genetics, which was a Canadian biotech company that he took through a successful IPO on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Professor Maloney holds over 300 patents in plant biotechnology worldwide and led the cell biology group at Calgene to develop the world's first transgenic oil seeds. He is also a venture partner at Spruce Capital Partners LLC. So we look forward to Dr. Maloney sharing your experiences in connecting research, academia, and the industry through innovation hubs and platforms, and how to set up and operationalize an agri-biotech cluster at the national level. Hopefully, some of these learnings will be applicable to us in India as well. So welcome, Maurice, again. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Kiran, for that nice introduction. Made me sound a lot more advanced than I really am, but I'm very happy to have this opportunity to present to this meeting, and I'm absolutely fascinated by the number of people that have been logging in to follow the proceedings. So I'd really like to just talk through really the story of ag-biotech startups to try and identify where the opportunities are, but also where the difficulties are, and maybe illustrate some of that from experiences with individual companies with whom I've worked. We can go to the next slide. There we go. As we all know, right throughout this pandemic, the agriculture and food system has delivered spectacularly. We have not seen any degradation in the food supply or the quality of food during this very traumatic period through which we've gone. And I've got to say, in part, that is attributable to agricultural biotech. If we just look at the graph here, you can see there's almost 200 million hectares of crops now grown using ag biotech in some form or another. It has begun to plateau out a little bit in the developed world, and probably that reflects the fact that large blocks like Europe still haven't embraced biotechnology. But we will also see, as we increase the acreages in India and maybe China comes on board, this is also going to cause a very significant increase in the use of ag biotech. So there's clearly a strong appetite and market for technologies relating to food and agriculture. And yet it is a difficult area to build a business. And so I'd like to just go through a few of the steps to try and determine, is ag biotech really a special case? Or do we just need to concentrate on certain aspects that we would consider to be the most risky parts? So in the next slide, we just switch there we are. The key things are really things that apply to most any business: time and money. Money obviously is the runway through which we can get the job done and turn technology into products. But when it involves biology, it always takes time, because growing seasons, or it might be building fermentation facilities. And of course, we all have to deal with regulatory systems whenever we use life sciences as a means of solving a problem. The time issue is very important, because most of the investors that we are involved with in any of these stages of development of a company are on a time scale. So for example, most venture capitalists will have a fund lifetime of between 5 and 7 years. And so they have to exit no matter what the consequences at the end of that period. And so they have to liquidate that fund. Consequently, they will always be looking for opportunities where they can see what the exit strategy is. And that's an important thing to bear in mind as we try to fund our runway right the way through from discovery to product. So if we look at the next slide, what I'm laying out here is really a time scale of a product development timeline, but it could be the corporate development timeline of a small biotech. And most of these things begin with discovery, often in public institutions like research institutes and universities, and are dependent on grant funding. And normally that grant funding is sufficient not only to do the scientific discovery, but also to move it to the innovative stage. Innovation being the demonstration that the discovery has utility and could be useful in generating future products. Many of us get through that innovation stage, again, with grant funding from public institutions, to get to a point where we now need to move the technology into a point where we can demonstrate the prototype. A lot of people think of this as a technology readiness level of about 4, TRL of about 4. In order to do that, sometimes it does require an injection of additional money, and often grants that are from for university researchers don't fit into this category. Why? Because it's not really discovery research anymore. It's really more about demonstrating the robustness of the innovation. And so this is often where we need to get some other financing typically a pre-seed financing. If this was in North America or in Europe, I'd be saying roughly $400,000, $500,000 in order to develop the prototype. Now, the next stage does require a significant investment of cash because we need to scale up the prototype. So typically we might have a very good demonstration of something in the greenhouse, but now we need to go to the field at a significant scale, and that does cost in order to do it. It's costly both in people and resources, but often there's a regulatory component to the field testing. So this may require another injection of cash from real investors now, something like a seed round. Typically, this would be $2 to $3 million in North American terms. But what that does is provide you the resources to scale this thing up and at the same time demonstrate in the field that the innovation actually functions for the purposes that it was intended. And once you do get to that scale of field testing, you know, on tens or hundreds of hectares, then you are in a position very often to enter into licensing or co-development arrangements with larger companies. Most innovations that apply to large acreage agriculture do require some kind of partnership. It's almost impossible for a small company to address the scale at which one has to operate in order to make sure that this turns into a viable product. And so licensing and co-development often takes place at this point. Now, that's a good thing because it offsets the cash burn from the investors from the seed round and can often get a company into a situation where it may be cash neutral with respect to its spend. But in order to develop the product, there's normally a regulatory hurdle. It depends on which country you're working in, how difficult and expensive the regulatory hurdle is. But that regulatory hurdle is often managed by the partnership, if there is an appropriate partnership in place at that point. But it's also a point at which many companies get acquired by the partner. And so although that may look like the end of the company in one sense, from the point of view of the investors and shareholders, there is an exit strategy right there, which is the trade sale. And if that doesn't occur, very often the company will move towards an IPO, an initial public offering, at some stage close to year 6 or year 7. So that is not an unusual timescale for activities in this sector. And I'll give you one example, a real life example in the next slide. And this is actually work that not only I was involved in, but our chairman, Kiran Sharma, was also involved in this. So let's just take a look at the next slide, please. And this goes back to 1986. Initially, I was in a company called Calgene in Davis, California, when we developed the first transgenic canola cells. So we got DNA into canola cells using agrobacterium and plants. And the work with Kiran was subsequent to that, but we developed a very rapid and efficient method for brassica transformation together. It actually took 9 years in order to launch the product. This was very early stage of biotech, plant biotechnology. It took 9 years to do it, but it was interesting. Once we launched the product, and this was launched with Monsanto, who by that time had bought Calgene for $240 million. It was one of the most rapidly adopted agricultural innovations that has been seen in this century. Because we went from no acreage to 80% of the canola acreage in 5 years. So 80% of the acreage by 2000 was already transgenic canola. And it continues on because in 2018, 90% of the acreage in Canada was using this kind of technology. It's worth $9 billion plus at the farm gate. So the leverage on an innovation of this nature can be absolutely dramatic, but you can see the period of time it took to go from discovery and innovation to product launch. So if we look at the next slide, we'll just have a think about what's involved in that transition and where the hurdles really are. So can we flip to the next slide, please? So with Agritech and Biotech startups, there are a number of issues that, in my experience of working with them, both as an investor and company developer, issues that need to be addressed. And one of them is very simple, and that is, what is the product we're selling? Is this company selling technology? Is this company selling a tangible product like seeds or a piece of equipment? And how does one move from the innovation to the product? There is often a lot of confusion in small companies about what their product is. I've worked with drone companies who think their product is the drone, when in fact their real product should be the data that is acquired by the drone, which is a lot more valuable than the actual piece of equipment that they want to sell. Similarly, I've worked with bioinformatics companies who create enormous value for other companies by designing germplasm. But if in fact the value is in the design of the germplasm, why wouldn't you, as a bioinformatics company, also participate in that? So understanding what your product is and how you can benefit is a critical piece of the analysis of any company. Because we are technologists, we tend to have a mindset of technology push. We have a technology and we want to push that into various markets. In fact, it's much better to find out where the market pull is so that we go right to the unmet need and begin to develop products that companies are asking us to produce using our technology platform. Although we all want to feed the world, and consequently our end customer, of course, is the general public, or the farmer and the general public, in practice, we need to be much more in tune to who's our direct customer, who is going to license or buy the technology or product that we've developed, and we need to cultivate those relationships. And that's how we, in fact, find out where the market pull is. When we participate in any of these businesses, we need to ask the question, where is money made in the value chain? I gave the example of the bioinformatics company. Well, bioinformatics can be a service, but you make far more money if you can actually design the germplasm that's going to be used as the final product that's sold. Now, I've completely lost. Okay, for a moment there I lost the screen, but I'm back with you again. There we go. So the question I would pose then is, what could possibly go wrong? There's, we got market pull, we got clearly a lot of interest in this kind of technology, and it's continuing to grow. In one of these 5 areas, probably a few more as well. But first of all, it's absolutely essential to maintain the runway, and raising money when you are almost very soul-destroying activity, and very often will lead to your company being acquired for nothing like the value that you would attribute to it. So I think that we need to continually look out for ways of maintaining our runway is a very important thing. Secondly, where most small companies run aground is in that transition from demonstrating the prototype to scaling up. And this is true whether it's a product or it could be even a manufactured product. It's the scaling that often causes problems. Sometimes the technology cannot scale in a linear manner, and you have to change aspects of the technology in order to scale it. Sometimes it's just the cost of scaling, because you're going from something that was relatively inexpensive in a lab or a greenhouse to something now that has to be scaled on hundreds of hectares at a time. And so planning for those scaling issues early on is very important. I've found, and I've made this mistake in the past, is the unnecessary cash burn of building a large staff when in fact there's many activities can be done now on an outsourcing basis. And then you just do the outsourcing, although you might pay more on a per DM, a per day basis. In fact, it's an awful lot cheaper than having an excessively large staff. So that is something that needs to be considered. If it is possible, while developing these very large products with large companies, to find a niche product that a company can actually develop on its own, that is attractive to a lot of investors because it does prove your ability to think commercially. And even though the product might be a niche product, it can still offset the burn of the company, but it also demonstrates your commercial acuity in trying to develop these products. And then, of course, it goes without saying, we need to maintain a legal monopoly for as long as we can on our technology. And so protecting IP and having a good IP strategy is also critical. So I think to conclude with the final slide, I think what I can do is really leave with you 3 quotes which are relevant to this whole company development idea within agricultural biotech. Can we just flip over to the last slide, please? Hello? Can you get the final slide? There we go. Thank you. And if you go on our website, I say a little bit more about each of these, but a quote from 3 very famous entrepreneurs in different areas. Al Shugart, that started Seagate Technologies, was famously quoted as saying, "Cash is more important than your mother." Now, it's a joke, and cash isn't really more important than your mother, but you remember it, just how important the cash runway is. And so for small companies, it's always important to make sure that you are laying the foundation in cash to anticipate some of the costs, particularly those costs associated with scale-up. Sometimes the cash comes in at a price that you don't like, but nevertheless, you need to have it. Secondly, Mark Getty, who is from the Getty family, the Getty oil family, he says, "Intellectual property is the oil of the 21st century, and never a truer word is spoken. Intellectual property has been the cornerstone of pretty much all the major companies that have developed." And I think, finally, the quote from our colleagues at Finisterre, Finisterre Partners, which is a major venture capital organization that's been around successfully for many years. Dr. Jerry Calder founded it. And he was quoted as saying, "The problem with instant gratification is that it's just too darn slow." Point being that we have to keep on timelines. Timelines are extremely important. And in any financial modeling of any project, you will discover that the longer the timeline, the lower the net present value of the project becomes. So time will eventually erode the value of any great project. And so we need to pay continuous attention to that. Anyway, if you would like to find out a little bit more about some of our ideas on this, don't hesitate to log on to our website, which is agritechknowledge.com. And I also have all my personal contact information in there, should you wish to contact me. Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Maurice. I think you also stuck to your timeline. I think that just shows how important the timeline is. You very eloquently mentioned about the product development timeline and how we need to, I think, be very careful and watchful, especially several issues that need to be addressed on this timeline. And a very important message here was, how do you understand and define your product? I think that was a very strong message. Rather than, a lot of us focus on the technology itself, but where is the value proposition for the customer? I think that needs to be looked at. You need to take care of potential areas that can go wrong. And I think while talking in terms of entrepreneurs or startups, I think there has to be someone telling them these, the incubators, the accelerators. I think that message has to, because a lot of them are first generation startups basically. So I'm sure this presentation would be very useful to startups and aspiring entrepreneurs. There are a lot of messaging hidden, I think, in your talk. And I'll talk to, we can talk to BIRAC, and if there is a need in the future, maybe we can get together, some of, have a special lecture around, more details around all these things. Thanks a lot. Enjoyed the talk. Our next speaker, plenary speaker, is Professor Neena Mitter. She is a director of the Center for Horticulture Science, Queensland Alliance for Agriculture and Food Innovation at the University of Queensland, and also the director of Australian Research Council Industrial Transformation Research Hub for Sustainable Crop Protection in Australia. Professor Mitter is one of Queensland's leading biotechnologists, having been involved in molecular biology and biotechnology in Australia and India for over 30 years. She is globally renowned for her leadership in innovative cross-functional research and exceptional industry engagement to address challenges of agriculture and food security. Neena's career and passion for delivering real-world outcomes have received recognition, such as Fellow of the Australian Academy of Technology and Engineering, Women in Technology Outstanding Life Sciences Award, Gates Grand Challenges Exploration Award, and Young Scientist Award from the Prime Minister of India. The institutions led by her share the vision of improving productivity, profitability, and sustainability of horticulture industry, and operates in close collaboration with the industry, growers, and government to develop clean technologies for agriculture of tomorrow. So we look forward to your ideas on connecting research with the market activities, challenges, and platforms. So how can we connect, and maybe some experiences from the other side of the world, from Australia, which could provide us some learnings here in India. So over to you, Dr. Mitter.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Really nice. It's really a privilege to be talking at this forum today, and thanks for the kind words. I do feel humbled listening to this. And it's also bringing me memories of February 2020 when I attended the Global Bio India event in person. It seems really decades away now. The world has changed since then. It was a beautiful event organized near to the Indira Gandhi International Airport. So I must commend the Department of Biotechnology and Dr. Renu Swarup and the team members for holding such wonderful events and catalyzing these topical discussions, which can make these huge connections that we make and then catalyze the development. So thank you very much. I'll start my thing by sharing the screen and praying that the technology doesn't play tricks on me. Does tend to do that, but let's see how we go. So I think it's working. Thank you, Morris, for setting the scene. I feel you've done. I can close down maybe in 5 minutes, but let's see how we go, because you have really explained some of the things that we really need to ponder about and put them up very nicely, Morris. If I think of agriculture, really the last few years, including of course the pandemic, have changed the way we think about whether growing, producing, harvesting, distributing, consuming food and fiber, all those definitions have taken a little bit of a new nuance and a meaning. Not just the pandemic, but the climate change, the changing consumer trends, consumers becoming more savvy. They want to know the traceability of their food. They want to know the sustainability of their food, the digital disruption that is happening around. And when I think personally of this space, I think, yes, it's no longer enough. We all talk about food security and 10 billion people in 2050. It is also about today. It's about the next season, the next year, and the year after. So we do need to be prepared and be agile to address those solutions. That agility word resonates with me much more now than ever before. I mean, to look at the vaccine situation, how agility has helped us to put, whether it's Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson or Covishield, wonderful examples of how technology and agility can help us in moving forward. And once again, as I said, and Morris really nicely put up, we need to address, for having that agility, we need to address those gaps all the way from discovery to adoption to make a real difference. So where I have been living this example, or I've been doing my work along at the universities, the process of design thinking, where industry becomes our partner right at the inception of the idea. So it's not about developing the idea and then going to the industry when you need a grant or you need a money, but making them as your partners right from the start. Defining the problem along with that industry and brainstorming solutions about that. And the most important key step also is about socializing your idea. It's no longer just about that single industry partner and that defining the problem. You need to take into account who is going to use it. Where is your product going? Who are your other stakeholders? Is it a farmer? Is it a grower? Is it a supermarket? Is it a company? Again, another company that might take up your product. So you need to have that conversation going and socializing of that idea. And before even you go in for developing your proof of concept, you need to develop a business case for best fit. And that business case should have the economic imperatives, the social imperatives, and these days, most importantly, the environmental imperatives as well, in making that really viable business case. And also, of course, as was mentioned in the first talk, the regulatory, the policy landscape, and also the social licensing to operate. So these SLOs, as well as the policy and regulatory landscape, have to fit in within your business case. When you have the proof of concept, once again, I think there are different ways of defining it. The value of death is a very common terminology used in these industry development circles. That's where the slippery path happens. Resources drown, as Morris was saying, the research resources, the well becomes empty, and you need more funding, you need more momentum for that scale up. And this is, I feel, where I feel those short circuits are needed. And this is where BIRAC or other initiatives that we are having in Australia, which I'll come to, is to provide that bridge, to provide those platforms so that we can short circuit that valley of death and go from proof of concept to scale ups, do identify new risks in that process, and go for real world translation, marketing and consumers. And I must tell all the young entrepreneurs today who are listening and the future leaders of tomorrow, please don't stop there. Move to another great idea in the value chain. There's so much more to do. This particular topic, when Kiran sent me the email, briefing me as to what to talk about, so I started looking at what happened to startups in 2020. I just picked up two examples here, just because they resonate with the pandemic. So one is about this vertical farming, and this has really become, it has become quite a forefront thing at these days. And this particular one, it's all about restaurants can eliminate their supply chain so they can grow food close to where they are going to serve the food. This ag draft caught my attention because this is very much relevant to Australia. Now, this, in Australia, the horticulture industry actually relies on backpackers. So these are students, young people who come from Europe, from Pacific Islands, from other countries. to visit Australia as on holiday, but a cheaper holiday, and then they work at these growers' farms for picking and harvesting. Now, COVID really interrupted that supply. It really had a big impact on our backpacker industry and having those labor available for picking and harvesting. And this is where this particular startup is looking like a LinkedIn for the agriculture industry, like an Airbnb style, connecting the employer and connecting the worker. I will just use this platform, and once again, as brief from Kiran, just to give you 2 or 3 examples where University of Queensland is making some steps in this space. So we started an entrepreneurship program at UQ in 2018 called Venture Forward. It's really amazing. Within 2 years, we have had 20,000 plus participants, 220 plus startups have benefited, and we have raised in investment and grants up to about $95 million. And what is the ingredient for this success is very structured development of this UQ Venture program, which is really well organized in structures. For example, we have things like Curiosity, which is a 6-week program. Just taste, go and explore the entrepreneurship, just talk to people. We also have platforms such as Lead Hers, which is absolutely focused on female entrepreneurs. I am also involved in Women in Business Forum of the Australia-India Business Council. So I get to see wonderful examples of women entrepreneurs coming from India, from designing from simple technologies to very complex digital solutions. It's really mind-boggling. So this particular platform called Lead Hers actually promotes those women entrepreneurs. Then we have, of course, the Validate program, which is a 10-week program about taking your venture small steps to make it a reality. Once again, connecting with industry members and throwing the carrot of some prize money at the end, which always is exciting for young entrepreneurs. We have the iLab Accelerator, which is a 3-month program, and this offers $10,000 equity-free funding. So which is really important for these young entrepreneurs. Before they understand the language of IP, they understand the language of commercialization returns, understand what difficult and hard landscape is to navigate this through. It is an equity-free funding to just develop their idea. And we have programs such as Entrepreneurs in Residence. One more thing that I would like to mention about this Ventures program is that we do not limit itself, the program, to just the UQ staff and students. We have taken it to high school as well. So we want to really spark that interest when they are young. We offer students a 1-hour masterclass or an entrepreneurial journey, and we also get teachers involved in the process. So this is something about promoting the startup culture, and this also highlights that we do need some structure around these programs to make them a reality. This brings me to the next part of my talk, which is what Maurice was saying. How do these startups don't end up in the valley of death, but go towards the product development and the scale up? And this is where the hub and node approach comes in. And we are absolutely involved in this hub and node approach, where sitting in Queensland, here in this map, I'm showing you just the connections within Australia, but of course, this hub and node extends to international partners as well. And how it begins is by having that intel on global market opportunities. So that is what defines our strategic direction. Where is the consumer intelligence coming from, the government priorities, the global innovations? And then we have these 3 interconnecting boxes: innovation suppliers, innovation adopters, and innovation facilitators. So the suppliers are the people who will supply with the tech product or the digital kit. Adopters are actually could be manufacturers, employees, producers, and then we have the innovation facilitators, where a person, a researcher like me, plays a little role there, and then we get all together to make this dream a reality. And this is what we have done, and which again, Kiran, resonates with the development of agri-food hubs and agri-food corridors. So what we have done with this model is we are looking at developing these agri-food precincts, or we call agri-food hubs, and Agri-Food Connect is one such hub. But we also develop these runways or corridors that lead to that Agri-Food Connect. So I am involved in the development of one such corridor where we take the discovery and knowledge research at the university that happens to a little bit away from the university, a place called Gatton. And here, Gatton is the place where actual production happens. So this is a valley where we have the vegetable growers and the food growers. So the testing and the trialing of the technology happens at Gatton. And then this runway moves towards the real Agri-Food Connect, or that innovation precinct, where it is a vibrant hub where industry can come, touch, feel the experience, get the data they need. It's like a shop front from them. It's well connected to the airport. It addresses the issue of manufacturing, supply chains, processing of the food to take that next step forward. So this is a business model, industry-led research translation hub, piloting the approach of connect, convene, and catalyze. That's where we lead it. And as you can see here, the partners are not just supermarkets like Coles or Woolworths. Our partners are telecom companies, insurance companies, bankers, government, education colleges. They all come together to develop this pipeline from various perspectives. And one such hub, which I actually going to open tomorrow, is an Agritech hub where the whole purpose is to provide startups to develop solutions directly with industry and researchers. So in this hub, no research will happen, but it is a networking hub, an Agritech and logistic hub for entrepreneurs. I'll just end with this talk now with this example from my own work. So we have been talking about the bigger picture in terms of the hubs and the precincts. Within these bigger ones are smaller modules which actually address a very industry specific issue. So this is a focused hub now. Here we are just talking about sustainable crop protection, or using which RNA based vaccines. I can just call it plant vaccine maybe. And this is where we go to the government for a bigger initiative and have industry partner involved, taking to the scale up stage. Once again, having that vision. From that vision we draft very early on for this hub, that we do want to work on food security, but we do want to talk about the future consumer as well. So this is a BioClave platform now progressing from the addressing, benefiting the agriculture, but having that global marketplace and having the interests of the future consumer in mind. This opened in August 2020, just a smaller hub within the bigger hub, but we have 6 universities, state governments, we have rural development corporations, and the key part of this hub is we generate those future leaders. I cannot stress enough how important it is to mentor and develop these young future leaders of tomorrow, or the early and mid-career researchers. They are the fulcrum, they are the key to finding the solution. And once again, this process.
A great tagline. That's something we need to look at. You did cover, virtually all the aspects we were looking at, and I see a great, possibility of connecting, with some of our initiatives here at BioTech itself as we move forward. Especially talking about platform for the UQ platform for entrepreneurship and its various initiatives, especially how to empower your startups and entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs. It's a great testing site and something that what the incubators in India also do. But I think that whole cluster approach is a good idea, whether you call it hub and spoke or hub and node approach. I think it's something we need to look at. And also a good example of your BioClave research hubs. In India as well, I think in some of the projects we're looking at, much lower level, I think, when we work with tribals and smallholder farmers, how to get them involved through primary processing and secondary processing facilities. These are very small interventions by the donors at the farm gate itself or farmer producer organizations. So even if you do a very small level of primary processing, I think you're just doubling the income for the farmers right there. It involves simple things like cleaning, grading, sorting, and packaging, rather than taking the bulk to the market. And also the secondary processing, where some of the smaller entrepreneurs can actually come and use the facilities to produce ready to cook or ready to eat type of food. So certainly, I think you've also given us a lot of food for thought, and we'll certainly try to capture this in our proceedings. So thanks. Moving forward, we're a little bit late, but I think I won't regret that, because when so much knowledge is flowing, we can always afford extra time and request the organizers to give us 15-20 minutes towards the end, so that we can have a benefit of all the nice presentations. The next section is on pitches from the startups. The idea of this session was we wanted to hear from the startups on their journey so far. What are the pain points they would have experienced, and expectations from this type of a cluster model, basically. So we requested 4 of our entrepreneurs who are into the pilot stage. These are Bioprime, Xmatic, Fasal, and Krishi Tantra. So we requested them to make 2 to 3 minutes of pitch, basically. These are pre-recorded videos. So we'll quickly go through this one. So that might actually help us set the stage for the panel discussion coming later on. So if you can ask the organizers to play these videos, and also thank these entrepreneurs who have actually at a very short notice prepared these and provided us. So let's get along with this.
Hello, this is Dr. Renuka Karandikar, founder of Bioprime Agri Solutions Private Limited. Bioprime is an ag biotech startup founded by 3 researchers with the aim of bringing back pride and profits to the farmers. We are building climate resilience in crop using targeted physiology modulating biomolecules called sniper biologicals. In the last 4 years, we have progressed from developing a proof of concept at lab scale, doing controlled condition testing, and then to field validations at different agroclimatic zones. 2 years of market tests and iterations, we have achieved product market fit and have successfully launched 5 products in 9 states. We have sold over 20,000 liters of liquid and 200 metric tons of the granules. We've helped farmers achieve 30 to 40% more income and reduced crop losses by 60 to 70%. Sniper biologicals are crop agnostic and available in liquids for drip or foliar applications and granules for broadcast applications. Products have seen wide adaptation as they can be used on as is where is basis irrespective of farmland size and are cost compatible. We have successfully scaled the technology to be able to produce these biomolecules at 35,000 liters of liquids per annum and 500 metric tons of granules. We have 3 strategic partners which help us take the product to the farmers. We have currently 3 more products at the final field evaluation stage and have co-development agreements with leading agri input companies. During this journey, some of our major areas where we faced difficulties was lack of regulatory framework, especially having different regulations in each state. We also faced hurdles in developing industry connects. For a pilot testing facility, a field level testing with local farmers would be extremely beneficial for testing and taking these kind of technologies to the market. Control condition testing for generating data on spectral analysis, physiological, biochemical, and molecular parameters to arrive at mechanism of action would be extremely helpful. A small manufacturing facility which helps us test the robustness and the scalability of the technology would be extremely helpful. Like pharma, Agri lacks funding grants at various stages of validation. Clinical validation related funding support at each stage could be a game changer for companies like us. We thank Global Bio India and BIRAC for the opportunity to present and look forward to the new and exciting developments along the
doing and optimizing their resources. We are mostly working in the northern states of India. We started working in Punjab with Government of Punjab. We worked in MP with one of our partners in Pagro. We are also working in Himachal. Right now, we had the opportunity to work with some of our esteemed clients, which includes L&T, Ambuja Cement Foundation, PAU, IRI, ISAP, Coromandel, to name a few. In terms of our products and services, we have 3 different sides to our ecosystem. We call CropletiX, which is a farm-specific advisory system, which relies on satellite imaging, local weather, and crop life cycle to provide advisories from sowing to harvesting. This is more or less a hand-holding from our side to the farmers. Then we have 2 IoT-based solutions. One on the water side, we call it autonomous irrigation, where we place our sensors. These sensors helps in understanding the water requirement from the field. And once we know the requirement, we control the irrigation process. We can control both the flood as well as the micro irrigation. Then we have a Pestlytics system, which is a pest surveillance system. This system helps in identifying pests very early in their life cycle. During our development journey, we faced a lot of issues, especially in component sourcing, which was a huge bottleneck for us. We also faced a lot of issues with the prototyping and access to labs, because our plan was to make all our products in India and do all the product development in-house. In terms of our expectation, we think in a shorter period of prototyping facilities should be set up in India for cost-effective development. This will certainly help new enterprises. And of course, in the long term, as government has already planned, we are planning on creating manufacturing houses, especially for ICs and components. And this would be a huge help for newer startups working in this particular space. Thank you.
The next one from Volcus, Faisal.
Hi, my name is Sandeep Kondaji. I am the founder of Krishi Tantra. So Krishi Tantra is an Agritech startup we founded in the year of 2017 in Udupi, Pangala. So currently we are head office at Hyderabad, Telangana. We basically are into soil health management. So we are a soil tech platform wherein we want to bring in the cutting edge technologies near to the farmer by making it more accessible and also at low cost. So the problem that we are addressing in today's thing is on the unbalanced fertilizer usage, because of which it impacts on the farmer's income because of lesser productivity, and also it will have an impact on the environment. And if excessive fertilizer is being applied, then also farmer ends up paying more money. And what we have developed is a product called Krishi Rasta, which is rapid automated soil testing and agronomy advisory, which is a patent pending product in 2 countries, India and in abroad, Netherlands. And basically it's a portable 1 cubic feet equipment, which is completely automated, which can be used by any less literate individual from any place in rural areas. So currently we have enterprise customers and farmer producer organizations. To name few of the big ones are like ConclaveKissan, Olam, and some of the supply chain companies like Amazon, and foundations also have been using. And also we are working with government agriculture universities as well. So we have We are there present in about 13 states from Jammu Kashmir till Kanyakumari. We have created jobs of more than 700 village level entrepreneurs who are using using our system and platform to generate revenue from. And our solution is completely automated, which can deliver in less than 30 minutes for about 14 parameters, which also includes macro and micronutrients. And it provides report directly to the farmer mobile phone as an SMS, WhatsApp message in the regional language, along with fertilizer recommendation. The pain points that we had to go through while we were during our product development stage was that the validation cost with any whenever we used to visit any of the university to validate our product, the validation costs were extremely high. So we couldn't afford also, and development costs also were extremely high. Again, the capital requirement for any hardware development organization is again extremely high. So the wish list that we have is, the validation of getting the products can be subsidized, and the resources from the technical universities can also be shared to the companies like us. Thank you.
Thanks. We do have one more presentation, I think. I didn't see the one from Faisal.
I am Shailendra Tiwari, one of the founder of Fasal. Fasal is a precision agriculture company which started in 2018. We at Fasal provide farm level, crop specific and crop stage specific actionable advisory for horticulture crops. Fasal is currently being used on more than 15,000 acres of farmland in Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh and Karnataka. And we focus on crops like grape, pomegranate, tomato, chili, capsicum, etc. Fasal is used both by individual farmers as well as corporates. Some of the corporates would be Mahindra Agribusiness, Syngenta, Bayer Crop Sciences, Corteva, Monsanto, etc. If I go in a little bit detail about what we do and how we do it, Fasal effectively provides farm level, crop specific and crop stage specific intelligence in these 4 verticals. Effectively, when and how much to irrigate, precise to the liter, farm level forecasting in terms of canopy parameters like temperature, humidity, chance of rainfall, estimation of amount of rainfall. We try and model pest and disease issues, understanding disease pressure or pest pressure at the very farm level, so that a farmer would understand when and what needs to be done in terms of disease management as well as pest management. And the way we do it is by collecting a lot of farm level data. Some of the components of data collection include IoT at the very farm, where we have built devices that can collect 4 or 5 group of parameters like macroclimatic conditions, microclimatic conditions, solar conditions like solar intensity, lux, soil conditions, below the soil parameters like soil water tension at primary root, soil water tension at secondary root, soil temperature. We also collect data through other methods like satellite imagery. And the idea behind collection of all of this data is to understand what is going on at the farm, what variables are controlling the input requirements of the farm, and then we push all of this data through agronomic models where a farmer knows what kind of disease pressure is there, what kind of pest pressure is there, what kind of disease or pest pressure will be in coming future. At the very farm level, what is water requirement? What is water requirement precise to the liter, so not even a liter or drop of water goes waste. And to build this solution, because there is a hardware component, we did spend a lot of time understanding and learning and evaluating and experimenting in terms of how to build hardware. India is a price sensitive country. We are a very cost competitive country in that sense. And that sort of provides you unique opportunities to push your boundaries, engineering boundaries, in the way that you are able to innovate frugally. Especially in context to hardware, that is a unique opportunity in our case as well. And hardware is hard. Hardware starts with the term hard, and it is truly hard, and especially when you consider hardware that is deployed in rural areas, in remote areas where you may not even visit regularly. That provides you with some unique opportunities to innovate. We have innovated a lot in the hardware segment, but this I can tell you with utmost certainty and sincerity that it has been a hard and a unique journey in that way. We took longer to build and validate the product than we anticipated. We had continuous learnings in the sense of how do we manage the supply chain, how do we manage MOQ, how do we validate the hardware, how do we plan from day one in terms of understanding what kind of requirements or challenges we'll have when the hardware goes to the field. And in that sense, I think that when the idea of these production clusters came my way, I was just pretty excited. What effectively we need if we definitely want to increase the hardware footprint here in India is, I believe we should set up clusters. Setting up clusters by sector basis or use case basis, essentially in the way that building hardware for agriculture is one thing, building hardware for manufacturing is another, building hardware for something else is another unique opportunity. And all of these use cases are very deep in nature. So if we are able to establish clusters which can provide expertise in these use cases, in these sectors, I think that will be very unique. And especially if we look at our journey at Fasal, we started with small quantities. We wanted to validate. Hardware doesn't provide you a lot of opportunities to iterate once you've launched it. So the idea that small MOQ facilities, which can, be stronger in the way that product validation and testing can be done, I think that would be phenomenal to give rise to a lot of hardware innovation, a lot of frugal, meaningful, impactful innovations here in India. And then once you've gone through that stage, I think one of the areas that we really need to move forward strongly as a nation, whether it is in terms of policy support, whether it is in terms of infrastructure support, whether it is in terms of any other kind of support that can put us in par with other countries which are competitive in terms of large scale production, I think that would be the best way forward. And the idea that we could have plug and play clusters, I think is definitely a good start, and we can build on. We'll definitely build on it. That's from me. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think I thank all the four entrepreneurs for providing very clear presentations. And very importantly, I think excellent suggestions, demands for implementation of what we're talking about, Kisan Hubs and Biotech Centers. They did list out their pain points. Although all the four entrepreneurs are doing great, they have nice products, they're well established. But I think if they had better facilities or better support available, I'm sure they could have focused their efforts and energies elsewhere. So thanks a lot. Now we move on to the next session. There's a panel discussion, and I think it's a logical movement towards the panel discussion around Kisan Hubs and Biotech clusters to see how we can address some of these pain points. We have 6 experts in this panel, but before that, would request Mr. Ram Kondanya, to give a lead talk, summing up, based on his experience over the years. Mr. Kondanya is a well-known agribusiness management expert and has worn multiple hats in his career. He has led seed companies. He's an author and teacher. He's a strategic management consultant and is a lead policy analyst for the agriculture input industry. He co-founded ThinkAg, a platform for accelerating the adoption of innovations in agriculture space, and is currently the Director General of the Federation of Seed Industry of India, FSII. So we'll talk about Kisan Hubs and Ag Biotech clusters and how we can spur the growth of more biotechnology startups in the country. And I'm sure you'll appreciate his experience over the years coming out in this next 10 minutes. So Ram, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. It's very nice of you to have invited me today. I thank BIRAC for inviting me to speak and on such an important topic. Digital, satellite, IoT and similar technologies have made a huge impact on the agricultural ecosystem in the last 10 years. Agritech enterprises have been growing very rapidly in number and in their impact. It is estimated that around 600 Agritech enterprises are operating in the environment today. Of course, as it happens, there are many which came in existence, but around 600 are doing well. It is also estimated that about 10% of the farmers, around 14 million farmers, are currently using the Agritech enterprises, which is actually quite a good thing, and this is growing also very rapidly, which means that the farmers are receptive, they are using smartphones and they are using other access devices to actually use these enterprises. Importantly, $1.9 billion is the total investment flow that has taken place in this space in the 5-year period from 2014 to 2019. It's a huge amount which has come in. It's a very encouraging trend that the investors who are putting this money find that there are good prospects for the Agritech enterprises in the country. Many incubators, accelerators and similar facilities are working with the help of DBT in different parts of the country. And so this is the two initiatives that we are talking today of BioTech-Kisan Hub and Agri Biotech clusters are excellent models, and they will definitely play a key role in helping startups with scale up and commercialization. However, I would like to mention a few areas that need attention. We should be mindful that Agri Biotech enterprises have not attracted much investments so far. This is a very important aspect we have to keep in mind. And look at this picture. I want to show a slide if technology permits me. Yes. I hope all of you can see this slide. This tells you that the $1.9 billion which came in, how it got distributed across different categories. 76% went into downstream ag tech, which is more towards connecting farmers to the markets. 7%, a very poor second, which is 7%, is agri infra tech. 6% agri fintech, 5% precision agri tech. Some of the presentations we saw today belong to precision agri tech. Upstream ag tech, which is tech solutions for building e-commerce input supply side. Ag automation 2%, and a poor 1% for ag biotech. Now, we have to keep this in mind that what could be the reasons why ag biotech did not get sufficient investment from the private investors who have put in $1.9 billion during this period. So I think we need to look at, and I will talk a little more about the reasons, in my opinion, or what could have been the reasons. One of the reasons for low investment in ag biotech is lack of enough number of enterprises in that space. We don't have enough biotech enterprises. In fact, one investor asked me last year, I want to invest in ag biotech, please suggest some good enterprises. It was very difficult for me to suggest. I think we need to look at the supply side of it, how the supply can increase. And when we say supply, we need quality of supply. One is to have numbers, but I think quality is very important. We need real cutting-edge technology-based enterprises in biotech space, especially in agri-biotech space. There are enough on the pharma side, but I think on agri side, we don't have enough supply. Research must be tailored to the needs of the market. I think this point came out in the presentations of Dr. Morris and also Dr. Mita, that the work has to start from the market, not from the labs. The lab work should follow what the market needs. Then only it will gain traction, it will attract investments, and it will gain commercial success. We should not force fit our research outputs into the market, because that will never work. I think that is one of the things we need to look at. There are many challenges on the opportunity side. There are many challenges that farmers are facing. Biotech stresses, abiotic stresses, climate change, natural resource depletion, galloping demand for nutrition enhanced foods and plant-based nutrition, which is going to be very important. Food safety, drudgery on the field, which is keeping the youngsters away from agriculture. Post-harvest losses of almost 1 lakh crores rupees as per government's own estimate. There is enough meat on the table for the ag biotech to work on. I think the demand side, there is no dearth. But I think we need the supply side to pick up to meet the demand. And I have a few suggestions on that front. First, I will talk a little bit about the ecosystem, how the ecosystem can encourage more research in this field. Ecosystem, point number one is how do we attract more investments? I think private investors don't have enough understanding of this space. One of the problems is that since they don't understand the space very well, they see it as a very risky space. If they gain better understanding through education, I think they will see this as a more attractive place than what they see today. Many of them are scared of investing in this space because they hear a lot of bad news regularly. We have, especially the adverse public discourse on GM technology has put off many people from investing in this space. Of course, many people don't even know the difference between GM and overall biotech. What is the difference and what does it involve? Lack of speed on regulatory progress. I think this is also put off many investors. They don't see that BT cotton success has not translated into deployment of technology in other areas and in other crops, other traits and other crops. Illegal planting of GM crops raises questions in their minds about IP protection and related subjects. Some of the big companies' closure of their biotech facilities also has put some question marks. So when investors, if I'm an investor, I look at all these things as signals based on which I create my own impression about the space. So investors are not sure of the regulatory support system. The IP protection, we are all aware of the dispute on IP between biotech traits and seeds, and which is still in the courts, and public policy support for agri-biotech. Lack of alignment between center and states, each state having its own policy, also has got some kind of a negative impact on the sentiment. So there is a need for a clear policy that is aligned between center and states on this, and it must be publicly announced, and government has to make a strong pitch that this is the technology which we are going to back. So there should be investments in this, there should be research in this, cutting edge research. And I think BIRAC can play a very important role in changing the public discourse, because we do need more scientific speakers on the subject. Science communication has not been a great asset in our country. I think we need to pay more attention to science communication, and how do we communicate to the common man on the street that biotechnology is good for him. I think BIRAC can play a very major role in this, and BIRAC can also play a very major role in encouraging high quality biotech research based on high quality biotech research based startups to come up. I think BIRAC can specifically look for such opportunities and encourage people to come up with such things. And BIRAC can also provide supportive regulatory assistance because I think many places where these people feel lost is that how do they finally cover the last mile and get the product to the market, covering the regulatory aspects. I think Biotech can also set up a special cell which will help these people with regulatory assistance, which could be a part of the two initiatives we are talking about. I think that is also something which could be very useful. I would also like to point out another major dampener is the lack of participation of corporates in the incubation and support activities for Agritech startups in general and for biotech startups in particular. The Kisan Hub and Biotech clusters are very good initiatives. However, I'm sure you must be already planning, but I would look for very major engagement of private sector corporates in these two initiatives. Through PPP models, if we can structure something, if we can structure a suitable structure to be developed to attract deep engagement of corporates in these two initiatives, a definite outreach from DBT to Agri corporates world would bring good results. I think the trust has to be built, and we have to build that relationship between corporates and the DBT to make sure that there is more engagement of corporates into this. And they can do everything. Corporates can put money, corporates can provide access to markets, they can provide access to facilities like laboratories and research facilities. Many things can be done by the corporates, but I think what we need is a facilitative environment for that. I know personally that in the places like US, the corporates invest large sums of money in boutique biotech research enterprises. I think Maurice talked about that. And they also give them access to their facilities which they can use for their work. So they invest in such enterprises. Finally, some of them are taken over by those corporates, or they keep investing and allow the biotech enterprises to flourish. I think we need a similar system here in India. The second aspect I would like to talk about is the quality of research to be stepped up. We need deep tech and cutting edge technology based work here. I have been involved in evaluating the work of some of the enterprises by incubators funded by DBT, but I would say that much needs to be done to increase the depth of research work, and this is an area which needs also a lot of attention. Products and services both have good commercial opportunities in this space, but I think we need greater attention to this on the quality of research. It will obviously, when research has to go up, quality has to go up, it will need more investments. So more investments are required from private funds, because it's not that government can keep investing, because that will not help in getting them to the market. If they have to go to the market, private investments must come. I think that should be the area of focus. A higher level of supportive IP, regulatory and public policy environment. I think this has to come through very strong intervention from the government. Without that, public investments and researchers quality will not go up. We also need mentorship platforms. I think one of the speakers also said that they need at every stage, almost on a daily basis, a mentor who can guide them on how they should take through the full life cycle of the enterprise. From idea stage to the exit stage, they need guidance and mentorship. So I think that is also an area which we need to look at. Knowledge exchange across boundaries is also a very important area, because there are hotspots in the world which are very knowledge based, and they have accumulated a lot of work and knowledge on biotech, agri biotech. We should arrange for exchange of such knowledge with our startups here. And importantly, capital not only from the funds but also from banks. Even for working capital, I know many entrepreneurs who run around banks and spending a lot of time trying to get working capital funding. So I think, although there are many schemes which are announced, but I think actually speaking, how much they are able to get funding is also a question mark. And finally, as I said, it needs corporate involvement. So I feel that DBT should have a program of looking at the full life cycle of startups from the idea stage to the exit stage, and think through and then arrange at different stages what is the support needed. I hope that this new decade will see some different things, because this is the decade which has to see transformation of Indian agriculture. And biotechnology has a huge role to play, and entrepreneurs have a huge role to play in this. I look forward to listening to the views of the eminent panel, which is put together by you for this purpose. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Ram. I think that was excellent summation of all the pain points I think which you have been experiencing, and I agree with you. That there are not enough entrepreneurs in the area of biotechnology, and I think you listed all those reasons. And this has also been one of the major observations of BIRAC, I think, where ag biotech sector is probably, money is there, but I think whether it's a supply versus demand issue, I think we need to see, or is it, we need to create those opportunities for startups and provide them opportunities. What can be done in ag biotech, so that I think those are the things we need to really debate internally as we go forward. So we move on to the discussion actually now, where we have excellent set of panelists with us. Unfortunately, time is not on our side, so I would request everyone to give their overview or their ideas within 3 to 4 minutes, so that everyone gets a chance. Sorry about the time, but it's a bit limited always. So our first panelist is Mr. Hemendra Mathur, who is a highly rated mentor in Agritech sector domain and venture partner with Bharat Innovation Fund. He's also an advisor to a few foundations, multilateral agencies with interest in the Indian food and agribusiness sector. He's also a co-founder of Think Ag and is the chairman of FICCI Task Force on Agri Startups, and is involved in drafting startup policy frameworks for state and national governments. So request him to touch on the challenges faced by agtech startups and the role of ag biotech clusters. Mr. Mathur.
Thank you, Kiran, and thanks BIRAC for having me here on this panel. And I'll try and finish within 4 minutes. And I think Ram has made my job easy. He's said a lot of things which need to be said. So all I want to say, I want to re-emphasize what Ram said, that when it comes to ag biotech, we still have very, I think, small numbers of ag biotech entrepreneurs. As we stand today, there are probably somewhere between 800 to 1,000 Agritech startup, but I would say 80 to 90% are digital. And when it comes to biotech, probably a few dozen or a couple of dozen startups. So I think that is something we should worry about and try and improve upon it. When you look at the US, more than 50% of the funding is into ag biotech when it comes to agriculture. It's much more than the digital, but in India it's other way around. So that's the point which Ram mentioned, and I would like to re-emphasize on that we need to improve the ecosystem. We need to bring more research out of institutions which can be commercialized and which these startups can tap into, and clearly BIRAC has a huge role to play. On your point of these Kisan hubs and clusters, I think this is a wonderful idea. If you look at the whole Agritech ecosystem evolution over the last 10 years, I think the role of incubators like AID and ARM, like Pusa Krishi, CIICO, ICRISAT, I think because of this, I think we have such a healthy ecosystem today, because of their efforts. Now, I think we have the critical mass, but if to scale these solutions, we need a very different approach. And I'll tell you where the challenges to scale is coming, and I think the startups on the panel did talk about it. Agriculture, all said and done, is a multi-dimensional problem. And if you're developing solutions, your approach has to be multidisciplinary. What I see lacking in the ecosystem, that whether it's the incubator or the institution or the startup, they don't have the necessary skill which is needed to build that scale. And when I say skills, it could be combination. For example, we are seeing application of data sciences, but the team which have data scientists, they don't have agronomists, right? Though the teams which have agronomists, they don't have people from other backgrounds. So for example, I think there's a huge application of behavioral sciences to improve the adoption of Agritech among farmers. But we don't have that as a team member in most of the teams. Likewise, we need probably agricultural engineers, we need meteorologists, we need hydrologists. So to me, it's not really a brick and mortar solution. It's about getting the right experts and skill sets on the table, which can collectively, as mentor or as a core group, drive the scale of the solution. So I think that is one approach we should keep in mind when we are setting up these hubs, that we need to have good quality experts on the board who can guide the startups. So that's one. Secondly, I think we probably need some bit of focus in when we're creating these clusters, and probably look at the areas which need most attention. And I think I probably would look at an approach which is more like creating center of excellence, and again, that calls for a lot of expertise from different backgrounds and different skill sets. So for example, center of excellence for climate smart agriculture, center of excellence for alternative proteins, center of excellence for improving water use efficiency, center of excellence to reduce food loss. So probably that could be another dimension or way to think about building these clusters. Can we solve one problem, but when we solve it in depth. So I think those are the thoughts I wanted to share as part of the panel. I know we are short of time, so I won't go into detail, but happy to engage with other panelists and the Biotech team to discuss it and elaborate it at a later stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. I think that was excellent, and you sort of clearly demonstrated the need, of these Kisan hubs and these clusters, because that's the missing link, especially in agri-tech sector, agriculture. How do you test your ideas at scale? And that's where I think these Kisan hubs and cluster coming together can provide that type of a ecosystem and environment. So thanks, and we'll move on to Mr. Bhaskar Reddy, who is an executive director at Syngenta Foundation in India since 2013. Before that, he was with FICCI at the head, as a head of agriculture and rural development. He has led, conceptualized, and led the agri entrepreneur model that follows a decentralized approach in empowering rural youth and incentivizes them to play an active role in agricultural development in their region. AIs act as one-stop resource providers for agriculture needs of small and marginal farmers. And currently the program is active in 9 states and has over 2,600 AEs. So maybe we'd like to hear a little bit more from how Syngenta Foundation is helping with these tech startups, especially technology translation and creating that farmer connect. So over to Mr. Bhaskar Reddy.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Kiran. And no, I'd also like to thank Biotech for inviting me to this panel. I will start at the bottom-up approach kind of a thing, where do these technologies landing of the technologies. All that we are talking, AgTech, startups and the technologies which will be developed will ultimately land in the farmer's field. So how do we, when you look at the farmer's field and, small farmers, and from there, if you look at their relation or engagement with AgTechs, what I feel is that 2 important things in this journey, which also some of the startups have mentioned. One is testing and validation of the technologies and making them adaptable to the small farmers, and especially from a two points of view. One is technical feasibility, whether the technology can be adapted by smallholder farmers. The technology might be fabulous, but given the smallholder land fragmentation and so on, will this technology be feasible in the smallholders land? One. And financial feasibility. The second is very, very important, because the technology might be very good, it might triple or quadruple the yields, but if you're talking about a $1,500 technology for a tomato farmer whose annual income is $1,500, I mean, then we're talking something which is not feasible. So that's how I think testing of technologies from both technical and financial feasibility point of view. And the second point is around the distribution of the technologies. So ultimately, the AgTechs have to distribute these technologies to millions of smallholder farmers, or if not hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers, for them to become financially viable. So these 2, I think, if you're able to look at from these 2 lenses, I think we would be helping the ag startups in a very big way. And we are very happy to inform that the approach that Syngenta Foundation has taken in creating this last mile connectivity, what we call as last mile delivery platform of creating village level entrepreneurs, is scaling up very quickly. Today, we have in fact 4,600 entrepreneurs spread over 16 states with about 400,000 farmers. And of these, in fact, 200 of these entrepreneurs, or little more than that, have demonstration farms where all the new technologies are demonstrated to the smallholder farmers. And I think that's where we directly see a synergy with BiotechKissan hubs, where it also talks about how do we test those technologies. So in the first aspect of testing and validation of technologies, we put in a lot of rigor in scientifically documenting their efficiency, the technology efficiency, and how it will benefit smallholder farmers through a small digital platform called GATE. It's called Global Agriculture Technology Evaluation Platform. It's a very simple tool where from day one to day end, I mean, till the crop is harvested, the entire crop cycle, we look at how the technology is useful, how scientifically it stands, fit for from a smallholder point of view, and so on. So we put the technologies through GATE, and those technologies which come out of GATE successfully, then we distribute them to the same entrepreneur network that we create. So in a sense that tomorrow, in fact, we are working with some of the startups like Fasal and Krishi Tantra and so on, who were mentioned earlier. So the idea is once we find that they're good, then we put on this 400,000 farmer platform, and maybe in a year one, 10% of the farmers could access those technologies. So that's what we do. We do both testing and validation and distribution of the technologies. And yeah, we'll be very happy to partner with BIRAC on these BiotechKissan hubs and also Agri biotech clusters. And in fact, all these entrepreneurs are clustered. They are developed in a clustered approach, which means we ideally tend to saturate a district, and if that's not possible, at least saturate a block level. In fact, some of the districts like Palghar, Wardha have been fully saturated with about 300 to 400 entrepreneurs, and we'll be very happy to partner with BIRAC. I think this brings us to one point, the need for a phygital, where it's a combination of these physical change agents in the villages who can help the AgTech with a lot of digital delivery platforms that are coming in place. I would stop here, Dr. Kiran. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bhaskar. I think that was very reassuring, especially you have been on the ground working with these, especially the small entrepreneurs, providing them that last mile connectivity. And I think there are those lessons to be learned, as we move forward towards this Kisan Hub and setting up these clusters. And certainly we'll reach out to you. Our next panelist is Ms. Kaushalya Srinivasan, who has over 15 years of experience across various roles in business management, strategy, brand sales, and market research at Mahindra. Currently, she is the head of strategy, marketing, operational excellence, and special projects for Krish E, the farming as a service division of Mahindra. Krish E aims to democratize technology for small landholders, and works with an ecosystem of partners and offers services like advisory, digital, and rental. So we look at industry perspective on public-private partnership collaborations through these clusters and hubs. And I'm sure these are also some of the learnings which should go into our thinking within BIRAC, designing new programs. I'm looking at the head of investment, Sanjay Saxena, sitting there. I'm sure he's eagerly taking those notes. Thanks, Mr. Srinivasan. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Sharma. So it was wonderful to kind of hear the whole panel here, and so much of resonance with what Mr. Hemendra talked about or what Bhaskar talked about. So when you look at what Mahindra is trying to do in this space with the farming as a service opportunity, which we've kind of branded Krishi, which is taken to the farming. One of the points that Mr. Hemendra talked about, which is the ability to deliver something which is multidisciplinary to a farmer, is something very core to what we are trying to do at the Mahindra Group. So one of the elements is Krishi is in a way an amalgamation of all the requirements that a farmer would need to manage his crop life cycle better. So from agronomy, so I noticed he mentioned that many companies don't have the ability to actually cross-track among multiple disciplines. So for example, within Krishi, we have a center of excellence for agronomy. So we are able to give agronomic advice to the crop life cycle management for farmers. We also try and deliver it through a digital medium. So we have apps that do that. There is obviously the challenge, not just startups, I think even large established companies like the group also face the challenge of the fact that it's a highly diversified group of people. And there is an inherent native way of doing things. So changing the behavioral element of change is something that we're trying to bring in. We also believe strongly that mechanization and providing mechanized solutions is critical in order to achieve the kind of productivity that India needs, not only to be self-sufficient, but then also to feed the world. So the other interesting element was how do you deliver the value, right? And one of the things that we are exploring at Krishi is small landholders are unable to purchase large value items, but there is value in delivering precision farming and other mechanization opportunities for them. So develop a pay-per-use kind of model and work with a large ecosystem of partners who you can bring on board to deliver these multiple opportunities across the diversified zones of India and the crop patterns. We also work extensively in the precision farming space. We are developing solutions in-house as well as in collaboration with a lot of startups in this space. It's in public domain, what Mahindra is doing with startups. And we are very excited to see that there is this opportunity to work at a cluster level. This element of being able to reach the final consumer, show him the difference that we could make. Bhaskar talked about the impact on ground. We try very hard. We have a very strong delivery model through our network on ground. And it is about building trust with that farmer. And as the group, we are always open to have conversations with startups. We have a lot of early stage conversations with many of them. And the idea is, if you're targeting to increase his income per acre, what is it that you can bring together in the entire life cycle management that can help him do that? Whether it is mechanization, whether it is agronomy, whether it is post-harvest solutions, all of it needs to be structured in such a way that he can consume it easily, as well as address what I would say is a highly diversified need across the agroclimatic zones in India. So that is pretty much what we are trying to do, and very excited to partner and see how we can kind of collaborate with startups and the group to take this forward.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Srivasan. I think certainly those partnership models, I think, are very important, and there could be one of the major missing links in this whole process of entrepreneurship. So that's worth looking at. Our next speaker is Mr. Kunal Prasad, who is a co-founder and CEO of Cropin. He has over 13 years of experience in the technical and management arena with substantial work in sales and business development, project management, product and customer experience. Kunal's strength lies in his strong team management skills and his tenacious attitude that has helped Cropin reach out to over 2.1 million farmers in 56 countries. He is passionate about work on improving farm productivity, climate resilience, sustainability, and food security. And he believes that farming should be data-driven and collaborative, and is on a mission to digitize 20 million farmers by 2025. So a quick look at Cropin's journey in nutshell and perspective about technology clusters. So Kunal, look forward to it.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kiran, and thank you, Bairak, for inviting us. I think my introduction was quite elaborate, and just to give you a quick highlight about what has been our learning, and what we have seen is the Agritech. What Ram was sharing is that right now, Agri Biotech, there is a 1% contribution of investors coming in and looking at that particular space. And when we were there in 2010, it was a similar space then, right? no one was talking about Agritech at that point in time, and there was very, very less interest of investors, right? So I think things transform very, very fast, and especially in a space which is led by which is the needed space, and the second is which is serving almost 140 million farmers across different parts of the country. I think that things transform very fast. One of the important thing that is required is certainly innovation hubs, something that is the initiative right now, Agri Biotech hubs. It's not only the hubs where startups can come and research and promote themselves, but also is a place where the research can be demonstrated and taken away by farmers, because that's a center where the learning, the transmission is happening both ways, right? So I think that's a fantastic place. Because as a startup, what we had seen is we also needed test grounds. Back in 2010-11, we wanted those initial customers, those initial test space, those FPOs, which could see our data-driven product and then take it to the next level. So I think this is a very, very innovative and the much needed initiative. From a crop-in perspective, what we have done in the agriculture space is basically brought in a data-driven platform for driving agriculture efficiency. This platform basically helps in terms of digitizing your data, because what we realize is when you operate in smallholder farmer markets, data mostly is not available with institutions, and we did not have data, you cannot take real-time decisions. So the first thing we solved for this institution is to collect your data, know about your farmers, what are the land holdings, what are the crops they're growing, what is the pest and disease that they're having. So collect the data. Second is, once you have these data sets available with you, you can actually then start acting on the data. So once you have farmer data, the crop they are growing, you can start giving them climate smart agri advisory. You can also give them early warning pest and disease based advisories. You can know about what inputs they are using, what is the output that is going to come out, and then that becomes a real hub where interaction with the value chains can start off, right? So that's one of the things that we really saw that was valuable. The second thing that we are seeing these days is that it's not any data collection. It's also about leveraging data to build interesting and useful insights, which can be used by business as well as given back to the farmer. So that's the level of insights and analytics, and that's also used for research. Even for Biotech right now, we need a lot of data for doing research. And I think digital platform like what Cropin provides can help you in terms of collecting those data and do those research on the ground. And third thing is when you want to operate at scale, you can actually use other alternative data. Right now we are using satellite data and weather data for predicting larger areas. So if a bank has to take a decision of lending to a particular farmer, he can do it proactively by looking at a terminal where we can actually tell about the risk score of that particular farmer. Now, if the bank can lend to that particular farmer, input company can come and sell to that particular farmer, and off-taker can come and buy from that same farmer, right? So I think the connection around the farmer from advisory, input, finance, and markets is all connected, and that's what we bring to the table. One of the important things that I've seen is just to give an example of a data-driven research. We work with large organizations in seed sector like Syngentas and Bayers and BASF. What they do is from the R&D till the time the seed is being innovated at the research level. From there, getting into the trial mode and different agroclimatic zones, different trial beds, they collect this data on a digital platform, because out of the 100 things that they're trying out, probably 10 of them will succeed, and that also will have many variables on top of that. To analyze that and to make it market ready, a digital platform really helps you in achieving those results. And with the experience that we have had with these larger institutions, I'm sure we could really help and support many of the other startups and other smaller organizations which are in this particular space right now. And the third thing is as a tech player, we are a full stack solution, and on our platform, we are just giving a technology, but the services are being rendered by other startups on our platform, right? If you're an input company, you are a bank, you are an off-taker, you can actually render your service on our platform, and we give you that particular data layer. So we are very, very open to collaboration. Any newer startup, any other player in the biotech space which wants to come and collaborate and work on the data sets or work with our partners, FPOs or pharma groups or even governments, we are very open to come and partner and help you support in that initiative. And thank you, BIRAC, once again. I think this is a wonderful initiative and looking forward to it.
Thanks, Kunal. I think again it was very relevant. The ecosystem that you've created, especially around your own clusters, and how the new Kisan hubs can take advantage of that. And good luck with your mission to digitize 20 million farmers by 2025.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dr. Srinivas Kondapi, who is a principal scientist, Research Management Division, and CEO of A-IDEA at ICR. It's an incubator of the National Academy of Agriculture Research Management from Indian Council of Agriculture Research. So they are the closest to some of the work they do, especially with Kisan hubs and farmer centers. They are a partner in our incubation ecosystem. He has been instrumental in setting up A-IDEA, the incubator, that has helped entrepreneurs to sensitize, ideate, incubate, and accelerate their innovative early stage startups to become competitive food and agribusiness ventures. So let's hear from the perspective of an agribusiness incubator of the ICR.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Srinivas.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran Sharma. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I thank BIRAC also for giving me the opportunity, and I exactly here at this point I must say BIRAC, we also run a BIRAC's incubator, BioNest also, and I wanted to start with two major problems that we are facing, which has been raised by Ram as well as Hemendra Mathur about the supply of the startups in the ecosystem. And we tried really as an agri innovator and specifically working in the biotechnology sector, we are really facing this problem like anything. We did sensitize more than 2,000, 3,000 people in the system and want them to at least join for initial stages, how to on some problem solution tree to develop their product or POC, but definitely we are really lagging behind in biotechnology. Probably there are two reasons for it. One is that our education system is such that most of the people are mostly theoretical oriented and not exactly coming into the practical situation. The education system requires more tinkering labs and labs at the college level, from where our youngsters can literally come into the biotechnology field and do the work. This is one part I wanted to say. Second important aspect, as India is having large number of agroclimatic region, we have the starting from temperate region to the almost tropic region, different types of agroclimatic regions are there. The scale up problem definitely becomes a very, very important aspects in the startup ecosystem, especially when a person comes with a problem and says, I wanted to develop a solution for this, and he must have developed a solution for a area which will not work in the other area. So there the problem, there the issue of validation and testing in the different agroclimatic fields is there. And definitely ICR, as it is, if we talk about the ICR, we have got large number of all India coordinated research projects, and we are also coming with some sort of understanding that these AICRP will be testing the solutions of the startups which can have more impact in a larger ecosystem, and scalability can be an issue that we are looking into that. So this is one aspect of the whole scenario that we are looking into. Another aspect, if we talk about the clusters and Kisan Hub, definitely it is a very, very good idea that has to come. In fact, today morning I was trying to understand the whole Kisan hub issue, and what we found is that the nodal agency needs to be at a national level and at a regional level, which can actually collaborate with the farmers through the FPOs, and FPOs can be can come up with, from their funding agencies like NABARD, SFAC, NCDC. State level departments are also doing, many corporate clients are also doing, like Reliance Foundations. Many NGOs are also working with the FPOs like MyRADA and all those things. Can nodal agency be sources of the farmers where we can go for the testing. Like Syngenta Foundation, just he told he is also ready, he is also working in the 9 states. Can a nodal agency list out all these things so that we can make a whole scenario of the things? On the other side, definitely there are many public institutions, technology developed institutions like ICAR, state agriculture universities, general universities are also there, ICRISAT is also there. Can these be brought out for the technology development along with private partners who are there in the field? Like lot of seed companies are there who have got their strong presence in the biotechnology research in India also. So all these things can we bring up to the plate of not only the startup on one side but farmers on other side, where we can actually amalgamate the whole solution through the district level KVKs or NGOs or incubators. These can be the clusters of a district level or a state level, whatever we can literally think of. This type of solution, if we can sit and work it out, probably Kisan Hub is going to be the best best extension agency. I'll not put it as an extension agency, but best on the inclusiveness of the technology, finance, and other aspects for the benefiting the farmers. This is what I wanted to bring in at this point of time. Since time is less, I had a lot of things to present because we were looking into many companies. We have supported 72 companies around the whole ecosystem, and out of these 72 companies, probably 40 are doing very well. Krishi Tantra is one of the things company which has been presented here, but definitely we require more and more inputs, or what we call as a incubative pipelines for biotechnology. For this, definitely a separate brainstorming needs to be done. And Dr. Kiran Sharma, you being heading the AIP in the whole scenario, and all actually we have been mentored by your AIP as well as CII CEO where Hemendra also comes, and Ram is industry partner. We require your mentorship to understand how to bring in this particular pipeline of the startups in biotechnology. With this food of thought, I think I can rest at this point of time.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. I think you put everything in perspective, and that was what is expected from an incubator. I think that's where you create and supply, that the startups, about whom we are talking now. And certainly, I think Kisan Hub model and these clusters would definitely complement, what the incubators are providing. So, and I agree. I think each of these discussions we are having calls for a separate session, altogether, and maybe we'll request Bairak to maybe start a small series on these, as we go forward, and let's come together back again and go into details after we understand each other. So my last but not the least panelist is Dr. Shyam Katta. He's an advisor to Smart Farming Tech, a Netherlands-based startup that is part of the Resilience BV network, an international organization that carries out research and consultancy projects for its clients in emerging markets. The Agritech solutions are easy to use offline platforms that serve as knowledge transfer mechanisms from experts to farmers. So we'll hear a little bit more about digital agriculture tools and technology clusters, and what's the role of Wageningen University of Research in the growth of smart farming tech. So over to you. You're on mute. Maybe you need to unmute yourself. We're not able to hear you.
You have to. Shyam, please see you. We are not able to hear you.
I think there's some issue with your audio.
Would you
not at all.
Can you just again try once more?
Hello. Is it audible now?
That's better now. Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry for that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Kiran. In fact, most of the things that have been covered. All the panelists had a lot of discussion. I want to bring a bit like we are a Netherlands-based company, as you said. We are working on few commodities in India. We developed few offline apps, and we are coming up with a white label app for exclusive agriculture. When we had 3 applications, which was for cotton, coffee, and potato, which we were doing very well. In fact, we wanted to bring few to Biotech's notice in the forum now. No, I think when international organizations come to India to work with organizations like this, we need to have some kind of policies which should be encouraging for organizations like us. The compliance should be really good, helping to us. Second important thing I wanted to bring here is to the forum, commercializing technology, especially, is become a biggest challenge. There is no sustainability of technologies which happens at the grassroots. So I actually work, the down model from the farmer to the technology. So we have seen a lot of challenges there. Otherwise, yes, we are coming up with a project, which covers 9,000 farmers exclusively. We want to pilot technology using to them, how we can sustain technology using to farmers at the grassroots level. It's a 2-year project which we are trying to work out and see what best results which we can bring it out. Otherwise, nothing much to discuss. Thank you so much for Bairak for the time. I'm extremely sorry. I think 40 minutes we have consumed than our actual time. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Sham. I think this was time well spent. Sorry, if someone can turn off their microphone. Yeah. So I think we took about 40 minutes extra, but I think this was a time well spent and no regrets from as far as I'm concerned. And thanks the organizer for bearing with us and giving us this time. Before I hand over for a very important part on the vote of thanks to Amita, I'd like to thank all the panelists for sharing their experiences and providing their guidance. We really appreciate this initiative of the Government of India to develop technology clusters to support this ag biotech startups, especially going beyond the proof of concept. I will not try to sum up this session. I think it's been very rich experience. Maybe we'll share the conclusions at some stage once we put all these all the suggestions together. So I'll hand over to Amita Joshi. Before that, I would like to acknowledge great support provided by Amita and Jonathan Filroy. John, can you come online? You have been hiding behind. So they provided, for the last 2 weeks, all the type of support day and night, getting, talking to people, providing ideas. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot to DBT and Biotech for all their backing and encouragement during the process. Sanjay, thanks a lot. I'd like to acknowledge the support provided by Dr. Renu Surup. I think this was her brainchild, basically. I wish she were present, or if she can listen to the recording. This is very important for DBT as well. So over to you, Amita, and thanks a lot to everyone on the panel. Maybe before we go, if everyone can come online, we can have a group photograph as well.
Yes, sir. So, sir, I just like to say first thing that all the thoughts and the talk which has been given by the participants has resonated very, very deeply with Biotech, and Sanjay sir would know that we have been thinking about these things for a very long time, and it has come up in this forum where there were startups, there were thought leaders, and then there were the venture funds who spoke out their mind. And I would like all of them to engage with us. This is just the start of things which Sir has and Biotech DBT has started. So my first and foremost thanks goes to the Joint Secretary. She took out some time to be with us, and she was there for some time. She heard us. My special thanks to Dr. Maloney, who's gave us a 360 view of things, his long experience in the ecosystem. Professor Mittal, she told us so much about what has been happening in Australia and the kind of new technologies which are being promoted, especially during the COVID time. Her initiative and the hub and node approach. I would also like to thank Ram sir we are very excited to have him and his 360 view of all what is happening in the industry. He gave some important points for DBT Birac to look into. All the startups, it was very important for us to know your pain points as to you have done this journey, been there and done that, and now you are able to tell us on what are the pain points, and we take them very seriously. All the important panelists, I really thank you deeply. You have given us very candid views. We appreciate them, and we would like, if you would like to take things forward, you can write to us. The clusters and the technology propellers are a reality, and they would go down the path that they should. So thank, and least and most of all, I would like to thank Kiran sir. He guided me and John. We did this panel. He was there with us all the time. Sometimes I would shoot out mails to him at 2 in the night also, and he would respond very patiently. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to say here that Sanjay sir, who is also the culture head in our Birac organization, he's listening to all this, and he would be taking some of the thoughts. Thank you all. Good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Really enjoyed, and thanks for your time. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Maurice. Thanks, Nina.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.